Welcome to Crim City. I'm Josh Hanrahan.
And I'm Clementine Cuneo, and I don't know where I'm looking. Am I looking there, or there?
Okay, this is a good start. Down the middle.
Okay, when I do.
The one with the line.
Oh, the green line.
Good
Is that
sign.
what I look for?
Okay, go again.
Welcome to Crim City. I'm Josh Hanrahan.
And I'm Clementine Cuneo.
This week we are going to talk about how we report on murders. We're going to start with the horrific death of Lilie James in Sydney CBD last week. We're going to talk about an older case that you have an incredible story to tell about.
It's a good story.
And then an incident that I would say is the worst of this underworld war, but has been significantly downplayed, and that's an attempted murder that we're about to break a big story on. So Clementine is one of the best reporters on the Daily Telegraph. She used to do my job, and then she became my boss, and has an incredible knack for breaking stories and getting people to tell you things that they otherwise wouldn't.
Yes, I have been wanting to have a guest appearance on here for a year and a half that I've been back at the telly. Moz and Josh weren't having a bar of it. Why are you letting me on today?
Well,
wore you down?
No, Moz got in a bit of trouble during the week.
I haven't checked Waverley Court list.
We can't really
Is he on there?
say too much about it, but last week's podcast when he turned up drunk led to... No, that's a complete lie. He is off. He is off with the New South Wales Police Force doing... I don't really know what he's doing, but I think he gets to shoot some guns.
He's doing a community policing or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Down at Goulburn. But anyway, he's been busy. He was on the phone to me just before we walked in here, actually.
I saw you pacing. What's that about?
Bit of breaking news. There's been another 2 arrests over the death of Alan Moradian at Bondi Junction, that pretty high-profile Comanchero bikie shooting from earlier this year. So that's 4 men that they have now arrested. These 2 blokes have been picked up at Liverpool and Greenacre.
Moz will be sad. He
I
lives
know.
for this stuff.
He does.
Big arrest and he's missed it. Setting the scene of how you and I met, and in a professional sense, I mean. And the very first job. So Moz and Josh are a big deal. Moz and Josh are a very big deal on TikTok and social media and in the Telegraph, et cetera, et cetera. But it's only how many years ago? 4 years ago that I was actually your boss.
Mm.
And you'd never been out of the office on a job. Correct me if I exaggerate. You'd never been out of the office on a job.
Yeah.
And I had to send you to Dubbo for a guy who'd been charged with, he was a zookeeper, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been charged with punching a kangaroo in the face. And we kind of thought it was a bit novel. So we send you to Dubbo. You'd never been out of the office. You'd never been out of the car on a job. And I had to talk you through it, literally step by step. Open the car door, hop out, knock on the... Well, basically. So I just like to keep it real and just...
Yeah.
Josh and Moz are a big deal, but it's only a few years ago. I was there holding your hand, Josh.
One of my better stories, the bloke who punched the kangaroo. And if you're listening...
Whatever happened to him?
It is that video you're probably thinking of where the kangaroo has the dog under the arm, under its paw, and then he walks up and goes toe to toe. And I remember it was a Sunday, and my mate sent me the video and in a group chat, and we laughed about how funny it was. And then that was at about 9 a.m. And I do this a bit with good stories.
Mm-hmm.
I hear about them and go, that's really interesting. And then go on doing whatever I was doing. And I found out about this video early in the morning, and then it wasn't until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon I went, that could be a story.
Oh.
Wrote about it, and it went nuts. And then the next day we worked out who the zookeeper was.
Did we know he was a zookeeper in the beginning?
No, didn't know anything about him.
Just punched a kangaroo.
Just a bloke punching a kangaroo.
I don't remember it that well, to be honest, but I just remember, and every time, you try and pull rank on me here in this office, I think, just wasn't that long ago that I was there. It's okay, Josh, you can hop out of the car. It's all right.
Okay. Well, we've all got to start somewhere.
We do all have to start somewhere.
As I said, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. But now I guess what I was sort of trying to get around to in a weird way is that's our backstory. I'd worked with Moz previously. Then there's you and Moz. Now there's me again. We're kind of like the odd threesome.
The odd throuple.
Yeah. We are a very odd throuple. And but we work bloody well together.
It's a good segue because I don't think there's been many better examples of us three working well together than there was last Thursday. So just to recap, Lilie James, water polo coach at St Andrew's Cathedral School in the city. Paul Thyssen works in the sports department there. He's a Dutch-born 24-year-old who moved to Australia 8 years ago in 2015 with his parents for his dad's job. They then went home. He finished school, got a job at school after school.
Yes.
And has worked there pretty much ever since, except for a year when he went back to the Netherlands. They had been dating for about 5 weeks, apparently, a really, really brief romance, which she had then ended recently. And on Wednesday night, my understanding is that because of West St Andrews is it's literally smack bang in the middle of the CBD, you would think it's a high-rise office block if you didn't know what it was. There's no room for big grass grounds or, bit
of astroturf on the roof.
Swimming pools or anything like that. So sports training has to be done off-site, and it's done all around the city. And what that involves is kids being bussed from the CBD campus to the pool, footy oval, wherever it may be. They have training, then they get on the bus, go back to school, and the teachers bring the equipment back to the sports department. And it was Paul Thyssen's job to catalogue it, collect it, check it back in. So the last time Lilie James is known to be alive is around 7 o'clock on the Wednesday night, and CCTV captures much of the school.
Mm-hmm.
And she's seen going into a bathroom in the gym area of the school, and Paul Thyssen goes in, I'm not sure exactly how long after, whether it's seconds, minutes, whatever it is. There's about an hour there where those two are not seen, and then Paul Thyssen walks out. That's around 8 o'clock. He then drives to Vaucluse, to a notorious suicide hotspot called The Gap. He then drives somewhere else, and then just before midnight, back near The Gap, he calls police and says, you need something along the lines of, you need to go to the school, you'll find a body. And that's the last time he's heard from. Police go to the school, find Lilie James. They go to Vaucluse and find Paul Thyssen's backpack, phone, his car, a hammer in a bin, which they believe is the murder weapon. And then there's no sign of him. They put two and two together. They look at CCTV and other cameras. They work out that he can't be seen going anywhere else. And yeah, that's where we get to. It's a murder-suicide. 2 days later, Friday morning, rescue crews, or, whatever department it is with the cops, find his body in the water at the bottom of the cliff faces there at Vaucluse.
Some construction workers apparently saw it.
Yeah.
A bit intrigued. Just curiosity's sake to know what they saw. Oh, I guess you can work it out. But I would like to know a bit more about him, but I don't think we're going to, because I contacted his parents on social media, LinkedIn, email, and I've been blocked. So that's fine. Everyone deals with these things differently. My sister, who often says, I don't watch the news, it's all too depressing, she even said to me, I can't get over it. How do those kids go back to school knowing what went on in that bathroom? And they would. I mean, how do you ever walk past that PE block without thinking what went on in there? And for that family, Moz said that that the dad turned up at the scene.
Yeah, on the night.
Lilie's dad.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know if he went looking for her but I was actually thinking about that afterwards, and I thought, you would assume that police didn't let him get too close for his own sake, but then the fact that the police wouldn't let him get close, you'd be thinking, well, why won't you let me get close?
I don't know. I think the death of Lilie James is one of the saddest cases I've covered, I reckon. I think it's right up there with, I think of Stephanie Scott, who was murdered at Leeton High School. It was equally horrific. She was a school teacher, about to get married, back at the school doing some prep, and she was murdered by the school cleaner. It reminds me of that. That's horrible. I think it's
the school.
The Abdullah kids who died in that horrible car crash at Oatlands.
So every part of it is the worst. But on Thursday, maybe you want to mention about how we got some flack for
So
naming her so quickly and picturing her.
Yeah, I thought there's been a lot of stuff written about this case across the country, and I thought something a little bit different that we could kind of talk through today is how we cover cases like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it literally starts in the morning. This one was with an email and a phone call and then a text, to our chat with you and Moz saying, hey, there's been a really bad one. Moz made a call. I think we all pretty much came in the offices, as soon as we could to try and get the lay of the land. And then, St Andrews is a well-known school.
Number one school, isn't it? Doesn't it do academically?
Yeah.
It's right up there.
Tight-knit community, but a far-reaching community, including into the office here. There was a number of people who had links to St Andrews who, were hearing things out of there and passing it on. And then I think, what time was it? It was probably...
Well, conference hadn't started. It must have been just on 10.
I think at about 10 o'clock, you're right, we found out that the victim was Lilie James. And... which was early. It was very early in the piece, and we waited.
It had happened at midnight.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not that early if you think about it.
No, but in terms of the working...
Sure, yes.
In terms of the working day and the fact that it had only been out for a couple of hours. And so immediately, I guess our first thought is, okay, well, we have to confirm that that's right.
Yes.
And we do that in various ways. It's either people at the school, it's police, whatever it may be. And so we were having those discussions at our desk with our editors.
Well, but remember also it was one of the junior staff in the office who had heard her name as well through the school. So we were confident that the school community knew who she was talking about, the shocking story.
The fact that Dad was there meant he knew what had happened.
Absolutely. But we did have that discussion, is it too soon to name her? And remember, Nick Hansen, our deputy editor, came over and said, well, check with the police, do all her immediate family know, which is what we did. Police said yes, they all know. So we named her and we pictured her and we wrote it very sensitively. And I stand by that. I don't think that we did anything wrong. It's what we would do in any situation like that. We did all the checks. We did it tactfully, tastefully. There's public interest. However, not all people agreed with the way we went about it.
No, I got a text message probably mid-afternoon, and it said something along the lines of, how can you identify this girl?
And it was from a homicide detective, which is probably
it's
worth noting.
Yeah, from probably the detective. Well, most detectives who work with him say that if they were killed, they would want him investigating their murder. He is very, very good at his job.
Very passionate about victims.
Absolutely. And so...
And not about the media.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't hold that against him.
What did his text say exactly?
It said, how can you identify this girl when we haven't been able to formally identify her yet?
Poor form.
Pretty poor form. Yeah, something like that. Which, and it's interesting, like I obviously know this guy, and I wasn't offended. I don't know what he thinks of me. I don't really, don't mind either way, but I rated it that he cares so much about this poor girl whose murder he is trying to investigate, that he, within a short space of time, has, felt that strongly about it, that he thought he should call it out. That's to me, that's the kind of guy you would want investigating your loved one.
But I thought it was unreasonable because every media outlet had identified her. Her name was on social media. I've never known of a situation where we would wait for a formal IDing process before we would name a victim. I understand his passion, but I thought it was unreasonable. It's not out of line. Go for it. Text, whatever, be passionate about your case. But it was just unreasonable. It was It was silly, but it's not how we work. And actually, you showed me your reply to him, which I thought was
I can't remember exactly what I said. I just said, unfortunately, and it's the reality these days with social media, but particularly with tight-knit communities. Well, they're not tight-knit. They're large communities like schools. Word gets out quickly.
Yep.
And we did all the right things. We did all the right checks. And
that's what you said, basically. Look,
totally. Why do we do it, Clem?
I'm not going to be able to give you an answer that's probably politically correct, but I love it. I love covering crime. I love drama. I love people's stories. And I love being able to speak to people at the worst time in their life and get them to trust me to talk. And it doesn't always work. But I do it. I do it from a genuine place.
It's interesting, your point there about getting people to trust you. I was going to bring this up at some point.
It's a tough one.
Walter Marsh. What normally happens in this podcast, if you've listened, is that I try and lead us on a, pretty structured route. And at some point, Moz interrupts every 30 seconds and takes us off on tangents.
Yes.
Now, you are not
doing that,
inclined to do that. No, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you are also incredibly good at what you do. And over the years you've been doing it, have broken some incredible stories. And I actually don't know much about this story because you don't really talk about it.
Well, and it's also a long time ago. Like, I don't want to become like Moz, who's still talking about the
No, it's great.
Cronulla riots.
Cronulla riots, that's no.
No,
that was this millennium.
Walter Marsh is a shocking story on a different level. There was a very, very highly respected, I think she was the nursing unit manager. She may have run the intensive care department, I think, at Royal North Shore Hospital, Michelle Beets, who, she did. She ran the intensive care department. We're talking 2010, this may be. She was very, very brutally murdered by a former nurse at the hospital, Walter Marsh. And the reason was, as it all came out in court, she hadn't extended his visa or she hadn't renewed his employment contract, which meant his visa was compromised. And the reason she hadn't renewed his employment contract was because he was a nutcase. There was complaints about him at the hospital. He was a risk. So she didn't renew his contract, and that was that. He didn't take it well, and he turned up at her house. I'll never forget it. I still drive over there to Chatswood Chase all the time to go shopping, and I drive past the house, and I'll never forget it. Holland Street, Chatswood. He murdered her on her doorstep, and it was brutal. She was this beautiful, intelligent, respected nurse, and it was a shocking, shocking crime. And it was probably a week or so until we knew who the suspect was. Anyway, without boring you and going on and on about it, but I spoke to him. I tracked him down. His house was a crime scene, so he'd been moved out of his house and he'd been put up in a motel. And I tracked him down to the motel on the Pacific Highway at, Artarmon, and spoke to him at length. And
this is a week after he's killed this woman.
This is a week after. And I know you look back now and think, what were you doing speaking to this guy? But two things. I spoke to him out in the open. We sat on a fence just on a street off the Pacific Highway. I had a big burly photographer with me. We were out in the open. And so I didn't feel unsafe, but more so, I actually didn't think at that time that he had done it, which to this day I still think, how was I so naive? But he told a good story. He cried. I thought, no, the police have got this wrong. I genuinely didn't think he had done it.
What did he say?
He just said he couldn't believe he'd been framed, that he did work at the hospital. She didn't renew his contract, but he didn't feel any ill towards her for that. It's just not, he spoke very gently. He came across he was a very tall man, but he came across he was gently spoken. And I remember driving back to work. We didn't have iPhones and email on your phone and whatever. And I remember it was late in the day. I drove back over the Harbour Bridge on the phone to Moz saying, we've got to write this quickly. We've got a deadline, but I don't think he's done it. And Moz had heard from the police that absolutely he had done it. So Moz was like, okay, just, tell me the story. So we wrote the story that I'd spoken to him. We did his whole denial that he hadn't done it. Anyway, but the interesting part, I guess, is that at the very end of the interview, I felt really sorry for him. I feel so stupid, but I did. I felt really sorry for him. And I said to him, if I can help you in any way, I don't know how I was offering to help, but I just said, if I could ever help you in any way, here's my number. Call me. Like maybe I could put you in touch with a lawyer or something. I did have some lawyer friends at the time that I owed a few favours to. And I said, call me if ever I could help you. Anyway, I didn't hear from him for about another, I guess it was the best part of another week, until I was sitting at the hairdresser in Double Bay and having a blow dry. And I think it was a private number that came up. So I just, answered under the hairdryer, and it was him. And basically he confessed the murder. He sort of waffled at the start and said, in his Canadian accent, people do things when they're under pressure, and then afterwards, they feel bad about it. But at the time it was what you had to do. And I realised where this was going. And I said to him, I think you're telling me something you shouldn't be telling me. You should be telling the police. And he said, oh, they'll know. They'll have my phones tapped. They'll know it was me. And he went on to say that he killed Michelle Beets. He said it was a contract killing. He said he had cancer. He was going to die anyway. It was a contract killing. Someone had put him up to it. He needed the money. So he confessed the murder. However, the crazy part in it all, which I only just realised the other day, and I don't know whether this is right, but cringed when I read back, because I thought, I know you're going to ask me about this, Josh. I read back on the stories that I wrote about it at the time. I remember we had this great front page, When a Killer Calls. And in the story, it says that he rang me at the hairdresser, which is right. And then he rang me the following morning and said he wanted to see me. So I went back and saw him. Oh, surely not. I couldn't have gone. The more I think about it.
Whoa, hang on.
No, I know. So I don't know whether I've made that up in the story, or did I go back and I couldn't possibly have. A guy's just, think about it. A guy's just confessed a murder to me.
Yeah.
I rang Moz immediately after.
Yes.
Don't think I even got my blow dry finished. Rang Moz and said, holy shit, a guy's just Moz said, I'll ring homicide. Moz rang the cops, who basically said,
we were listening.
All over it.
Yeah.
We know. And then I remember it was about another day until they did go and arrest him, but that was largely because his wife, unbeknownst to me or any of us, his wife had rolled. She was giving evidence. She was saying how he practiced getting her in a chokehold.
Oh, goodness.
Some really grim stuff, and that all came out in court. But the story I wrote says that he rang me the nenext morning saying he needed to see me, and I agreed and went back and saw him. Oh.
You don't remember that?
It was a weird time. I think I've blocked a lot of it out. But I was silly enough to go back, I mean, I'm here to tell the tale, but
that's crazy.
I wouldn't do that now. I hope I went back with a photographer. I actually don't remember. It's a long time ago. And then I had to give evidence at court. And I felt a bit anxious about that because, there was a chance that if the guy got off, if he was found not guilty, I've just given evidence against him. Anyway, the best result was that in about 5 years later, did I ever tell you that he apparently had a laminated photo of me in his jail cell? Process that.
That's crazy.
In the red top.
That's a great story.
But he died. Killed himself in jail. I think he... Remember?
Yeah, wow. We've spoken about Lilie James. We've spoken about Walter Marsh and that incredible phone call. I said we'd talk about one other case, and that is a story I am writing for the newspaper that we also work for, the Daily Telegraph today, which is about what I would call the worst shooting of Sydney's underworld war.
That's big. Big call.
It is a big call. I think a lot of police would agree with me. So we've had murders of, notorious figures who've killed people before. We've had women shot dead, Lametta Fadlala and Amy Hazuri in a car. But I think the worst shooting of the underworld war is an attack on a 9-year-old girl in her Dr. Seuss pajamas at her house in Sydney's inner west.
When? When was this one?
It was July 2022. Now, because the girl's only 9, we can't go into too much detail about her and who she is, but I'll just give you a brief rundown, and there'll be more in the Daily Telegraph and online. Police allege that 2 men rock up to shoot this girl's father dead.
Right.
But when he does not get out of the family car and he's nowhere to be seen, a gunman allegedly opens fire anyway. And one of those bullets hits the 9-year-old girl in the hip.
Oh.
And her injuries are going to be with her for life. It's, she's partly incontinent. She's got, she walks with a limp.
Why? It clearly wasn't Dad, so why have they shot her anyway?
Well, that's the question police would love to have an answer to, but unfortunately they don't. That's how that's why I say it's the most shocking, because this is simply one that is completely unexplainable.
Yeah, I get mistaken identity, but...
No, and then the cops said at the time they were clearly bemused, because there is no way any person could have thought that this was a man. Anyway, the reason that I'm talking about it is because we've got this incredible footage of Mahmoud Rizk, who was the getaway driver. And the only problem for Mahmoud Rizk was that after getting away from the scene and setting the first car on fire, which is obviously normal practice if you've read or listened to anything we talk about.
Kill cars.
Yes. He'd gone to get in the second car, which had been planted there ready to go, but it wouldn't start. So of all things...
So he shot the wrong person, shot a child.
He's not allegedly the gunman.
Child has been shot, then the getaway car won't start.
Yes, the second getaway car won't start. So what it means is that these 2 men are allegedly stranded in this suburb with police swarming the area. They were onto it so quickly, a police helicopter overhead. Anyway, long story short, in an effort to try and escape, Mahmoud Rizk ends up in the Georges River trying to swim away, but then he sees a police helicopter over his head, so he goes, well, they're going to spot me. So he runs back on land, walks along this street. Police spot this guy acting very suspicious, stop him, and this is where they've turned on their body-worn...
Sopping wet?
Sopping wet and sandy. They've turned on their body-worn cameras, and this is the crazy vision that we have online, where they've got this bloke in handcuffs on the side of a street, and they're going, what are you doing here? I was looking, I can't remember what he said, but, I'm looking for something. I don't know, I'm a bit lost. And anyway, then there's this crazy moment where a Raptor officer rocks up, and one of the local police who's the first on the scene, says to the Raptor officer, hey, come have a look at this bloke. You might know him. And he walks around and goes, yeah, that's one of the guys, 100%. And the other cop's like, kind of, how do you know that? But they know that it's Mahmoud Rizk because he's got a firearm prohibition order. He's a notorious underworld figure. He is someone whose face they know. And they go, if you're here sopping wet, there's just been a shooting.
That's the best part.
There's just been a shooting 5 minutes away. This guy has to be involved. And so he's now pleaded guilty to being involved in that attempted murder. And the crazy details, the text messages, there's phone calls between him and his girlfriend in which he pretty much confesses to it. And then this incredible body-worn camera footage of him just on the side of the road, shivering, shaking, wet.
Is this the thing you've been talking about all of last week?
Yeah, this is...
Are you going to write?
Yeah. You got to build it up.
Oh, are you building it up? Can we see it? Are you going to bother web as I used to say in days gone by?
You can see it. You can see it at dailytelegraph.com.au and in the newspaper. Thanks for listening. You can see us on TikTok.
Not me.
Not
Sometimes.
you. Sometimes you make an appearance. Twice. YouTube as well. Also in the Daily Telegraph and at dailytelegraph.com.au. Clementine.
I'm there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure. I loved it.
It was great fun. Thank you.
Can we do it one time with the 3 of us? Can we have Moz as well?
No, I'm not.
It'd be hysterical.
I am not doing that. Imagine me trying to coordinate
you. Don't have to turn up. We'll have Moz.
All right.